The Business Owners Podcast is brought to you by Business 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 and Enova Group with your hosts, Linda Reed Enovar and Clive Enovar. In each episode, we talk to other business owners about their experiences, challenges, and successes. We'll also share tips and advice on how to grow your business and achieve your goals. If you're a business owner or you're thinking about starting a business, then the Business Owners Podcast is for you.
Okay, we all deal with this at some stage in business, and that is the difficult customer. The customer who maybe doesn't like the product or service, or maybe we didn't set the expectations correctly in the first place, or maybe their expectations were just different to ours. So I get it. It's going to feel rather frustrating. It stings. It really does sting. And it's easy quite often to lose our control when we are faced with this situation of dealing with difficult customers. Now, the first thing I want to say to you is we all have the right to refuse to work with someone. Setting some clear boundaries and expectations and guidelines at the very, very start is one way of dealing with difficult customers, and also running yourself through checklists. So there's one thing that I have in place here when we're working with a retained client is we make them have 48 hours to think about it. That also gives me 48 hours to think about it, just to make sure that they are the right fit for the team, that we do actually have the capacity, and no one signs on the dotted line straight away when we're talking about taking on a project or a retainer-based client. Number two is we do things in short batches. We have a client come in and they will either come in for a 6 or a 12-week program with us. We make sure it is what we want it to be able to do, and then we refer them on down the track from there to maybe a retained option and those sorts of things. We do have a clause in there that says that either party can cancel with 30 days notice, just to make sure that if any of us need to opt out at any stage in time, we can. But by setting those boundaries and those foundations, we tend to have better customer relationships here. So the first thing that I suggest that you do is make sure that you've got your boundaries in place. What are your boundaries for working with someone? What are your clear expectations? What's a service level agreement that you may be sending out? And maybe what do you provide for that service or product that you're looking at? Because once you've got that set, your marketing message should happen a little bit better so that we avoid difficult customers. And that's the next one that I like to talk about. Let's avoid them first. So one of the ways that I tend to avoid difficult customers, I have lots of free information out there that people can engage with that gives you an indication about who I am, how you're going to work, what to expect when you get involved with working with me. That therefore means that the content that I'm creating is educating my market to whether they like my style or not. And if they don't like my style, chances are they're either not watching or they're scrolling on, or they'll leave a negative comment. I'm like, yeah, cool, we don't need to work together, and we're all good with that. So that's another way that we avoid them. The other way that we avoid disappointed customers in-house here is having clear processes and procedures. And those processes and procedures allow us to not miss a step along the way. But what happens when we do get to that point and we get the difficult customer and we get the person who leaves a review, or we're stuck working with them along the way? First of all, if we get someone who leaves us a negative review, we have a right of reply. We listen actively, we see what they're talking about, and if they're making a complaint, we do the same thing. We listen actively to the complaint. We take it on board. We maybe empathize. We don't have to admit fault or anything at this stage. We can just hear what they're saying and say, I hear what you're saying. I understand that might have been disappointing or frustrating for you. And then we can come back and take a moment and step our way through the process and going, okay, so when we onboarded you, or when we did XYZ, this was the explanation. Or when you bought XYZ product, this was the use of the product. Now, if they've misused the product or they've misinterpreted the expectations, then we try and clearly guide them through that. And we, say, I'd love to work with you to help you understand how this best works. And that it helps people along the way. But then we will have the people that are disgruntled and they'll leave a negative review for no reason. And then we've got to say them back and come back and go, it wasn't something we did. We understand it's unfortunate, and please, bear in mind, or you never purchased from us. That's another one that pops up. And just say, unfortunately, our records show that you didn't purchase. If you reach out to me personally, we'll delve in from there. Okay, so you're handling the review. You're showing that everyone else that you're listening to that negative review or that negative feedback along the way. If you've got a customer that you're actively working with that keeps pushing back all the time, remember your boundaries. Remember to bring them back to the service level agreement or the level of what you had on board so that they know where they are. And if you have to, put them on notice. Say, this isn't working for us. We might need to look at something else, or you might be better with another service provider. Because remember, in the end, none of us are going to be perfectly fitted to every client that we have inside the target market. When we have a difficult customer, we need to listen. We need to take note, and then we need to see if it's something that we actually have done and need to react on and change for, and then we need to apologise and make the steps and the measures that we need to help deal with that difficult customer. If it's not something we did, then we need to maybe respond to the customer and say, with the expectations and the boundaries and the support that we have in place based on the product or service, or find out where the misunderstanding happened. And if the misunderstanding happened on our end, then chances are that we most probably still need to make up for it. But we don't want to make up with it at a complete loss for us. If it's a product malfunction, cool, we need to replace it and claim that on insurance. If it's a service that maybe didn't get delivered in the way that we thought it should have got delivered, we might offer to re-deliver that service. But we don't always have to bear the cost of materials and those sorts of things within the business. We need to clearly work out what our procedures and systems are for what happens when a difficult customer pops up. Difficult customers will quite often arise from the fact that we don't have our processes and procedures set. When we don't follow our processes and procedures, customer service issues tend to happen as well. So let's try and avoid the difficult customers to begin with, but if we do have them, listen actively, take note of what's happened, see if it was something that you needed to deal with, and if you don't need to deal with it, then explain to the customer that the error wasn't on your end. And if worst comes to worst, terminate the relationship, because you don't have to work with everyone. And we need to remember that within our business life. This is our call of the shots about who we're going to work with and who we're going to engage with.
Thanks for listening to the Business Owners Podcast. We encourage you to connect with us on social media and join our community of business owners at businessbusinessbusiness.com.au.